Hey everyone, Dave here. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you've probably at some point noticed a wall of Commodore goodness surrounding me. A lot of them you can recognize and say, oh neat, he has an SX64 there, oh neat, he has this. Now you may have seen these plastic bins up here, but you probably didn't know what they were. That's what this video is about. Those unassuming plastic bins in this quiet corner of the Commodore room, that's where I store my KIM-1 single board computers. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through my collection. Now, in most of my videos, they're heavily scripted with a lot of illustrations and graphics and things like that. This one, I'm just going to be winging it, so if you like that other format, you might be disappointed. Anyway, I'm going to carry these over to the bench and get us started. I'll talk about these in order from oldest to newest, so what you see right here is the oldest KIM-1 I have in my collection. I'll give you a really quick overview of what a KIM-1 is. KIM stands for Keyboard Input Monitor. I don't know what the 1 means. Now, it doesn't look much like a computer, at least not in the way you think of computers today, but what you're looking at here is essentially a Commodore PET computer without the TV monitor built in. The only display a KIM-1 has is these 6 LEDs here. Now, there were solutions for connecting a TV display to a KIM-1. One was Don Lancaster's TV typewriter. Don published a book back in the 70s that walked you through building your own, or you could order a kit for it. The input device down here, it's just this little calculator keypad. It looks limited, but you only need to be able to type 6502 machine language at a KIM-1, so it has all the keys you need to enter hex values. The stuff over here, that's some address decoding logic, and it's the circuitry that allows the KIM-1 to load data from paper tape or cassette tape. The chips up here are the RAM. The KIM-1 has a whopping 1K of RAM. This board uses MOS 6102 SRAM. They're 1K by 1, so it reads 1 bit from each of the chips to read an entire 8-bit byte. The chips over to the left here, these are the real business of the whole computer. This one, it's an MOS 6502 CPU. MOS Technology is the same company that made the boards, MOS with their logo there. They made the 6502 chip also. Also, these two down here, they're MOS 6530 R-Riot chips. R-Riot stands for RAM, ROM, Input, Output, Timer. MOS did not decide to get clever with them. That acronym is exactly what the chips do. They have a tiny amount of RAM in them. The ROM that's in them makes up the kernel of the KIM-1. So when you boot it, it boots from the ROM in these 6530s. That's what drives what a KIM-1 does. The I.O. pins, they have peripheral I.O. pins, what you call GPIO pins today. That's what allowed it to connect to the outside world. The two edge connectors over here on the left, the one on the top is called the expansion connector, and the one on the bottom is the application connector. The application connector is where you'd connect a power supply and a tape player or paper tape if you wanted to load programs. Incidentally, MOS did not ship the KIM-1 with a power supply. They shipped it with a single 44-pin edge connector that was connected here, and you had to build and wire your own power supply up to it if you wanted a power supply. If you look closely at the silk screen, and I don't know that I can easily zoom in, but it's labeled A1 through A22, so the top 22 pins are 1 through 22, and the A means application connector. The expansion connector's up here, and it's labeled similarly E1 through E22, 22 pins. The difference between the application connector and the expansion connector is the application connector is really your interface to the 6530 peripheral pins. The expansion connector is connected directly to the address bus and the data bus of the computer. So you literally can connect right to directly access the CPU address and data lines from peripheral devices. So you would connect things like, memory expansions and such over there. That's it for my generic what is a KIM-1 overview. Now let's talk about what's special about this KIM-1. The first thing is, over the years, they made several different revisions, revision A through revision G, and on every single one of them, the revision was silkscreened right here on the board. Well, on this one, notice, there is no revision. This is an extremely early board. It predates revision A boards. If we look at the chip date codes, the 6502 is from the 51st week of 1975. The 6530s are from the 5th and 6th week of 1976. If I turn the board over, the serial number's on the back. It's 0233. I believe this is the 233rd production KIM-1 ever built. I can't guarantee that because little has been documented about the meaning, if any, of KIM-1 serial numbers, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. Anyway, that is my beautiful, very early pre-revision A KIM-1. Let's move on to the next one. The next KIM-1 from my collection is also a fairly early one. However, notice the difference. This one says Rev A up there. This is a revision A board. As for date codes, the CPU is 12th week of 1976, and the 6530s are weeks 14 and 16 of 1976. If I turn this one over to look at the serial number, we'll see it is 2050 there. Now, I believe that makes this the 2050th KIM-1 made. There are about 10 weeks between my earliest KIM-1 and this one, which would indicate that MOS made about 1,800 KIM-1 computers in the 10 weeks from the 6th week of 1976 to this one in the 16th week of 1976. There isn't much else to say about this one, but what I will do is I'll put this board next to the earlier one, which I have to go back and get. Give me a moment. All right, so there's my no revision KIM-1 and revision A KIM-1. Now, if you look at the boards, there are a couple obvious differences. Like if you look at the traces, you can see how the traces are different there. There's a trace here that doesn't exist on the pre-revision board. So if you look, there's a lot of differences in how the traces are laid out. I have never actually done a detailed comparison to see exactly what's different, but they're definitely different. So my next KIM-1. Now this is also a revision A board. But it's a little bit later in 1976. There's some corrosion on the chips, so it makes the date codes really, really hard to read. But the 6502 is 48th week of 1976, and I'll note it's a Synertech 6502, not MOS. MOS licensed the 6502 out to second source suppliers. I can think of Synertech and Rockwell off the top of my head. I think there were others, I can't remember. The 6530s, they're dated the 18th and 27th week of 1976. So still 76, but CPUs later, maybe it was replaced at some point. The 6530s, 27th week is the latest one there. The serial on this one, though, this is where things get a little bit goofy. If you can even see it, I'm not sure. Let me turn it this way so you can see it really good. M0084. Put this back so you can view it upright. So I don't know what the M means. I mean, it could be MOS, could be macaroni, could be John May, the fellow from MOS who was the primary designer. But this is why I didn't tell you with confidence that my two earlier boards were the 233rd and 2050th made. My guess is they ran through an initial batch of serial numbers in sequence, then started a new sequence with the M prefix somewhere around the 27th week of 1976. But again, I really don't know. My next KIM-1 is a revision D board. I don't even know if you can see it there. The first thing you probably notice before you notice revision D is it's a different color. This board, I guess you call it cream colored or tan or something. The KIM-1s came in green, this cream color, and blue. I don't know if colors are specific to certain revisions or what. I've never looked into that, so I don't know why some of them are different colors. The really big deal you'll notice, this one is branded with the Commodore name up there. And it still has the MOS logo. So Commodore International purchased MOS Technology in November 1976, which makes this the very first Commodore computer ever on the market, the KIM-1. Most folks think of the PET as Commodore's first computer, but it was actually a KIM-1. As for chip dates, on this one, the 6502 is 15th week of 1977. The 6530s are weeks 19 and 20 of 1977. This KIM has its serial number on the front. It's PA1145. Now, again, with serial numbers, everything I'm telling you is from me. It's not gospel on the internet. It's not from actual MOS documentation or Commodore documentation. This is all me guessing and assuming, so I might be wrong. My personal belief is that Commodore began using PA and SC prefixes because they set up a new production line in addition to the existing production line at the MOS facility. The MOS line was at Commodore's 950 Rittenhouse Road location in Norristown, Pennsylvania. PA is the postal code abbreviation for Pennsylvania. The new line was at Commodore's 3330 Scott Boulevard location in Santa Clara, California. So I made the guess that Commodore began using the PA prefix for KIM-1s made at the original MOS facility in Pennsylvania, and SC for KIM-1s made at the new Santa Clara facility. For the last couple, I was sparing you me unpacking each one of them. I'll let you watch the unpacking of this one for a reason. This is the original black bag that this came from when it was sold by MOS. This one came in its original box with original packing and all the warranty card and the original manuals and everything. So this one does a lot of reflection because it has an acrylic case on it. That acrylic case is not an MOS product. There were a couple companies that made the aftermarket cases for them. One was a company out of San Francisco that I'm blanking on the name of. I think it was called the Enclosures Group. That one was a really nice injection molded plastic that covered everything and just left the display and the keyboard out there for you. This one, it's just a piece of acrylic that sits up there like that. It does a good job of protecting you from touching pieces on the board while leaving the keypad open. I think there are companies still that make modern ones, or you know, not companies, probably hobbyists who sell stuff, but you can still buy modern ones like this. This came with that, and I believe that it was on there since it was used in the 70s. Storytelling time, this is actually the second KIM-1 that I ever purchased. The first one I bought, I got it off eBay, and it was, you know, untested like they all are, and of course it didn't work. And I was working on it for a little bit. I didn't know if I'd ever get it working. And this one popped up. It wasn't for a lot of money. This was years ago when KIM-1s didn't go for crazy money on eBay. So I bought this as my, quote, one to use, figuring if I never got my first one working. This one showed up, and it does work just fine. It worked when I bought it. And I did since get my very first KIM-1 working. Now, I don't have my first one anymore, so I can't show it to you. I traded that to a guy named Ethan Dix for his 2040 Commodore disk drive at VCF East a couple years ago. So Ethan has my very, very first KIM-1 I ever owned. So this one is a revision F. I don't know if you can see it through the acrylic there. Date code wise, it's week 49 of 1977 for the 6502 and weeks 47 and 49 of 1977 for the 6530s. Anyway, this one, it's serial number PA6778. This could indicate they made over 5,000 KIM-1s at the Norristown location between week 20, when my last one was made, and week 49, when this one was probably made. If you do the math, though, that only works out to about 183 KIM-1s per week, which seems like a pretty small number. So there's clearly a lot I don't know about KIM-1 serial numbers. All right, here's the last one I have in my collection. It's also a revision F. And chip date codes, 6th week of 1978 for the 6502, 4th week of 1978 for both of the 6530s. The serial number on this one, SC0170. So, my theory about the SC meaning Santa Clara, these date codes pretty much shoot a hole in that theory. Commodore's Santa Clara location was at 3330 Scott Boulevard in Santa Clara, California. But they didn't move into that building until late 1978. They couldn't have been building KIM-1s there in the 6th week of 1978 if they weren't moved in until, say, the 40th or 50th week of 1978. So maybe this board was made later in 78 and these chips were just from older inventory. I really don't know. I hope you enjoyed going through my KIM-1 collection with me. I love those devices and I love talking about them, so I enjoyed this probably more than you did. I was going to close out with doing a demo of a KIM-1 working, and then I remembered I've got a whole bunch of other videos where I do all kind of cool stuff with KIM-1s, like get a KIM-1 to talk to a 1541 disk drive. So I thought, well, I'll just add those fancy things at the end of the video that let you click on it and go to other videos, but I don't know how to do that stuff on YouTube, so just pretend it's there. I guess maybe I can add it to my KIM-1 playlist, or just go to my channel and look for KIM-1 videos. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next time.